So this is how much I respect you. I was blowing my cigarette smoke that way. Somehow I was going to get you sick, you know?
But I wound up like going like, you know, like listening to Hello Dummy and listening to a bunch of different appearances and just getting a bunch of Rickles lines. Like there was one line in there that they left that I just took off one of his albums that wasn't in the script.
The Mexican woman and the rock whack.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, that was up. Yeah, you're right. That was the one I picked up that wasn't in the script because I thought it was very funny. It's a funny line. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I did a bunch.
Makes no sense. It makes no sense. Which is great.
Makes no sense whatsoever. But I had papers, and Scorsese said to me, like once everybody was in place, he goes, "All right, this is at the Gotham Comedy Club." He goes, "All right, just go on and start." He told me. So I just started doing Rickles lines. I tripped on a couple. It was so embarrassing because fucking Pesci and De Niro are in my eye line, but it wasn't in the script, the line. It was just a couple. And the crowd was laughing because, again, they understood what their job was. Yeah. So I'm doing the Scorsese, the Rickles lines, and they're laughing. And then when it was time for the camera to turn around, they had to do a close-up on Pesci and De Niro. Scorsese came over to me, and he goes, Mr. De Niro has requested that you just do whatever your act is because he wants something he hasn't heard yet so he can actually laugh naturally.
Wow.
So I wound up just going up and just doing, it was so bizarre because of camera angles. I had to sit there for eyeline between a piano and a cameraman and just stare at fucking De Niro and Pesci. And then Scorsese would yell something and I would pause so they could do their line. And then I would finish the joke. And it killed because the crowd was so happy not to be hearing the same line. They knew they were hearing different jokes.
Yeah.
So that really, that helped a lot.
So that scene, I've always wanted to ask you this. That scene's from your act, from your one night stand, where you're like, you know me, I can't complain. I got a rash in my back so big, you know, like, and I can't complain. But so did they tell you just to do that part from your act? They were fans of your act? Is that how you got it?
What happened? They didn't tell me anything. They sent a script to my agent for me to audition, right? So I said, I read what my lines are, and I said to my agent, I said, "This is brilliant. This is genius. Whoever wrote this, it's incredible. What a gift." She goes, "You never get so excited over it." I said, "Well, you know why? Because I wrote it." She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "They're all lines from my stand-up."
What the fuck?
And I said, "I'm not auditioning for that. I don't get the part that I wrote. I feel like such a jadrul." She called the agent. He said, "Oh, no, he has the part."
Even that was, I was delivering pizzas at like 31. I remember the first time I ever did a late night television show. I had to deliver that night. And that's when the Lakers were winning everything. Right?
That's great, yeah.
So, dude, long story boring. I couldn't watch. I get to the door with the pizza. The guy opens the door. And I'm on fucking TV standing there with the pizza.
Wow. Dude, do they recognize you?
I remember the look on his face was like, "Oh my God, this is so cool. This is depressing as shit."
Yeah, you went, "Two flies are sitting on a piece of shit." And you're like, I just like that phrase, and I want to say it again. "Two flies are sitting on a piece of shit." And the crowd, you just changed the crowd to your style, which was great. I really admired that. It was great.
Such a classic joke. Artie Lang falls down off his chair every time he hears that. He loves it.
What's the end of the joke again?
That was a fun show. We had a great time.
What's the end of the
joke? Two flies land on a piece of shit, and the first one lifts his leg and goes. And the second fly says, "Come on, man, I'm trying to eat."
But literally, I'm on set with freaking, risky business, Top Gun, with flashing that smile at me, and Steven fucking Spielberg, and he starts talking to me, and he goes, "Lisa, I'm going to need you to, you're gonna work with him here, and he's going to be there with a buddy, and then the TV comes on, you go and change the channel, and that's when we get the piece on the TV about blah, 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 and then you're going to come back when he says this line, you're back at him on your mark, and then you do the rest of the scene with him, and the idea that you wind up he winds up taking you home. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm kind of nodding, and he goes, did you get all that? And I said, no, you're going to have to say all of it again, because your mouth was going, and it was Charlie Brown's teacher's voice in my head. And all I could hear was, oh my God, Tom Cruise. Oh my God, Steven Spielberg. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And
if it wasn't for your show, we wouldn't have The Office. I mean, you know that. Yeah. By having to play your boss, that's what booked them on The Office.
Which I think they were kind of trying out in a weird way. And yeah, it ended up killing my show.
Really? That's what happened? Tell me.
Yeah, because he ended up he got The Office while he was on my show.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And another weird thing is the part that of my friend on the show, I was really pushing Rainn Wilson.
Wow.
He came to network and auditioned for the first time, and it went okay. And they were like, no. And I'm like, I'm telling you, this is the guy. We have to get this guy. And made them bring him back for a second audition.
Yeah.
Which they never do. But I'm like, I'm telling you, this is the guy. And they still were like, I don't see it. And then Steve and Rainn end up crushing it on the. So I always say I came this close to ruining both of their careers.
Yeah, exactly. by hiring them.
Yeah.
That I get to see you.
Right.
I haven't seen anybody in 8 months.
How you holding up?
I have figured out the secret to cleaning my house.
Which is?
Poor vision. And
Well, here's what I want from you. Can you do what you're saying now, but as Gene Wilder?
I mean, are you crazy? Are you nuts? No, I will not. No.
The Scorsese moment, the moment of Frenchie, there was a detective at one point on the set said, oh, I worked on this. He turned out to be a classic character, but he said to me, he'd tell me stories about Frenchie. And, later on you read, like in the book or before it, I read the book, that he might have been a stick-up man, but I viewed him as a guy that was not a violent guy, just fun-loving thief, crazy, and it was wide open. And that's what this detective told me. He'd come up and I guess he'd say, oh yeah, this guy, Frenchie, Bobby Pankin would go up and say to a friend, say, hey, you still fucking your wife? And the guy would go, what? He goes, give it this. And he'd steal an expensive diamond ring and just give it. So I wanted that joy, focus on that joy. I walked in that day, and the script, I finally took a chance, and I said to Martin Scorsese, I said, Mike, I told you, yeah, Mike, what's up? And I said, well, I know Nick wrote the book, and he wrote the script. He goes, yeah. And Scorsese said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, he put in, I can get past all the alarms, which I understand for a film or whatever he's saying. He goes, yeah. I said, but that was the beauty of it. There were no alarms. There was no security. There was one guy, and he went, well, say whatever you know. Martin Scorsese just turned to me and say whatever you know. Right?
Yeah. Wow. But you're a very, very handsome guy.
Oh, thanks, bud.
You're a very handsome guy who, at the heart, is really a goofball. And that is the best thing about you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what happened to you as a kid, but I'm really glad it did. You know what I mean? So
the comedic mechanic of the mechanics of comedy, that they still hold up, whether they're politically correct or not or whatever, something like that. You need something to put to frame the funny, and people talk about, the whole time of jokes are dead and, whatever, and this kind of thing. It's like, sure, that's fine. Cause you know what, at the end of the day, I want to learn how to write the best joke, and I want to tell jokes, and I want to make sure that my stuff is not like anybody else's. And I check my jokes, this, I check a lot of material, and I try and be very respectful of what a joke is and how it should come. That doesn't mean that every joke I write is pure genius. It's usually basically all I can say about jokes is that finding a gem is like finding an M&M in a bag of I don't know what to tell you, a bag of brown. Is that it's very few and far between that you actually find one that like holds up in every situation, you know. So those are the jokes that I'm always pulling towards.
I'm a laugher by nature, so I get it.
No shit.
Actually, you fantasize and you're like, maybe one day I'll be on SNL, you know. And you always think of like what your episode will be or how you do, and that's like when I daydream and fantasize about that. One of my biggest fears is that I'm going to break, and I don't want to, you know. I'm no one to talk.
It's okay.
You see my show. My show is like I can't even. I got to pick myself up off the floor. I make them edit out me laughing sometimes as much as I can sometimes, because I don't like necessarily watch the show because I just focus on the things I don't like.
It's hard. Watching yourself edited is tough. You know.
Yeah. So, but I do have a hand in the edit.
Okay.
But, when I watch myself in everything, really, I'm actually like I'm a tough critic on myself, and I don't like how much I laugh. Like I just feel like to me, I sometimes see it. I'm like, oh, I'm bothering myself. That's obnoxious. And so like, no, really, as if I feel I'm obnoxious, and I'm like, oh man, I hope no one else does. And I get in my own head, you know.
Because I had left when Tough Crowd started. I had moved here to do a sitcom that nobody watched because of 9/11. And our lead-in was Emerald, and that was not a good lead-in. It was very bad. We had Fraser after us, but it was impossible.
Oh no! Who would watch Emerald after 9/11?
Exactly.
He's so jarring.
No, it's like Bam. Nobody wants to hear Bam. You know,
It's true. Oh my God.
It may have been, Brian, the first movie I ever saw at a theater, and I'm sure it was an accident. Like my family probably wanted to see it, and they brought me. I remember it was in New York at a theater that I didn't really. It was like we just needed to kill a few hours before our train or something.
Right.
Like we were in the Bronx, and I just remember, the Nazi imagery. And
so you say Nazi, and the German shepherds go nuts. Barking at the wall. Take that wall.
Adolf! Achtung! My rescue dog is retired from the movie business. She was she tortured the detainees in Zero Dark 30.
Are you serious?
No.
Yeah, so Clint whispered in my ear some direction, and we're just rehearsing before camera rolls, and I have a whole tray of props, and we're rehearsing, and I made a rookie mistake of setting the tray down just in the confusion of getting the blocking right for rolling camera, and I set it down on my line. And Tommy Lee Jones was one of the actors that I was working with, and he makes no eye contact. He goes, "Hey, don't set that down on your line." Sorry, Mr. Jones. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for that.
I love reading. Like now I'm reading a book about Laurel and Hardy, and I read a book called 101 Greatest Sitcoms. These are all like bathroom books, so you read a chapter and then you finish and you go leave, and then you come back and you're at the next chapter and you finish leave. And they said that, I don't know why I'm telling you these things, very personal right up front.
Yeah, it's a little disgusting.
Sorry.
Your bathroom habits are between you and your girlfriend. That's it.
And she doesn't even exist. I made the whole thing up.
I understand.
Clearly, she does not exist. Look at this house.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm really, it's got to have multi dimensions, unless it's a character. If it's a supporting character, I don't care if it's flat as shit. I'm going to do one thing and I'm going to fuck around within the one thing.
Yeah.
And that's all right, because guess what? They're not offering me leads, so I'm going to make the most of what I get,
Yeah.
But in a lead situation, when I've had a couple here and there, independent movies that no one's ever seen and shit like that, I just want to, play the whole spectrum of who that person might be, But so that's what I want to do more of, to be honest with you. It'd be nice to play more leads, I think, but I also want to play, a sexual deviant.
I think give a couple more years, I'll show up. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. You'd be surprised.
This guy hit me up. He was a hedge fund guy, suit, cigar, slick back hair, the whole thing. He goes, "Come roast my company. I'm going to give you dirt on them, and you just go hog wild, get vicious, annihilate these motherfuckers." I said, "You got it." And I said, "Can I say anything?" He goes, "Don't hold back." I go, "Great." And he gave me a rap sheet with some killer, like really good ammo. I go in, it's a ballroom with white tables with the tablecloths and the waiters in the white jackets and the silver platter. I mean, out of a movie. I find this guy, he's drinking a scotch on the back deck, breathing out of a cigar thing, going nuts. And he goes, yeah, there's the podium. I'll intro you. You do an hour, then I'll give you your check. And I said, great. And he goes, remember, obliterate these sons of bitches. I said, you got it. So I'm nervous, but hey, fuck it. It's good money. This will be fun. I get to make fun of people.
Yeah.
So I go up. It's a classic. I'm the shittiest looking guy there. I grab the mic. Feedback. Tap tap tap. Hey everybody, how you doing here at whatever McGregor and Sons firm? Hey Bob, and Bob's like, yeah, how you doing? I go, Bob, we all know you're a coke addict. Why don't you come clean? And he's like, Jesus Christ. And his wife's like, I knew it. I knew you were a coke addict. And I was like, that didn't go well. His kids are there. So then I'm like, all right, moving along. That one bombed. Hey, Kyle. Hey, I'm reading my sheet. I'm like, everybody knows you're gay. Just come out already. And his wife's there with his kids. And she's like, are you gay? Oh, my God. The table flips over, whatever it is. I'm exaggerating, but it was like 12 minutes of that. And not one laugh. It was all screams and gasps. And I did 12 minutes of that. I'm like, okay, that was horrible. I can see the guy in the back. He's furious. He hates me. So I go into my act, and they don't want to hear about Uber after you just torched the room.
Growing up, my father was obviously pushed my sisters and I to do well in school. He was kind of a tough dad. And I always felt like he didn't approve of my interest in acting or comedy, I always felt like, because I did really well in school, and and by his pushing, and I never felt like he was on board with me wanting to do entertainment or, go into acting. And that skewed a lot of my life. I never had the confidence to go on auditions or anything like that. I never, I just knew I knew I would not succeed doing it that traditional way.
Yeah.
And I never felt he was proud of me. Even when Jokers came on the air, I thought he always, the first few seasons when he still kind of was there mentally, he would push me to still keep my day job, to not give up TV development, because that's you need an office, you've got a desk, you got a phone, the traditional ways of
steady paycheck. Yeah.
And steady paycheck, what have you. And he would always, the first few seasons, would push me to still keep that job, still work, don't give that up. Meanwhile, the show's getting, more and more successful. And then we started touring. At the beginning, we're doing comedy clubs. He said, it's a mistake. You shouldn't be touring like this. You should still focus on your job. And then we did a show. We sold out Radio City Music Hall. And this is right on the edge of when he was starting to slip.
Right.
And he came to the show at Radio City. Like, we built the tour up over like 2-3 years, and we sold out Radio City. We went there, and he came to the show, and he said to me backstage, he goes, I was wrong. I'm very proud. I was wrong about this. I'm really, really proud of what you guys have done.
Dude, that
and that was probably one of the last kind of real moments of clarity for him. And that was a good feeling.
We just can't. He goes, as much as the writers love writing all the Jerry slams, like they love doing that.
Yeah.
He said, we got to give him a reason to stay around. Like, why would he be killing himself if everything is so terrible? And that's when they came up with this amazing family and his children, and of course Christy Brinkley as the wife, and the big penis, and the whole.
He has the biggest penis I've ever seen.
Exactly. And just so you know, Brian, I found out later they shot it both ways. Where the doctor goes, that man has the smallest penis I've ever seen. I said, oh, I would have killed you guys if you had shot. Because let's face it, no one needs to hear that. I'm Irish Catholic. I already know what's going on.
Yeah, they tried to do it to me once on a sitcom. I was like, could you take that out? They were like, oh.
Please.
They did it. They did it, out of respect. But I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm already fat. How are you going to throw other things out?
Exactly.
Now, was that when things went crazy for you, or were you always crazy as a kid?
I was in parochial school in first grade, and they called my name. They said Brian, and I got excited. Oh, I exist. I'm alive. Somebody's calling my name. This was in first grade.
Wow.
And there was another Brian in the class. They weren't calling on me. They were calling on somebody else. And from that day on, I knew that my existence on the planet was going to be somehow fucked.
Interesting. That's it. So I guess you were crazy as a kid. I'm just kidding. That's interesting. That answered my question.
Woody Allen comes and sits down at the table, little table. It's Malkovich, Cusack, Woody Allen, and me sitting at this table. He's talking to them about the scene with the sides. He's ignoring me. He's not even paying attention to me. He's talking to them for about 20 minutes, all about the scene, what they're going to do, this or that. He gets up from the table, and I said, excuse me, Mr. Allen, what is it that I'm doing? He goes, you just passed out on the table. Can you handle that? I was like, yes, I can.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved that. I loved any wacky. I mean, obviously, anything Dangerfield did was pretty big for me because, I mean, from his great movies to his not so great movies, I love obviously Caddyshack and Back to School. But then even the one I loved Meet Wally Sparks when I was a kid.
Meet Wally Sparks. Yeah.
There's some of those lines are just so.
There's a great line.
He walks up to a couple on the dance floor. You two should get a room. Then he walks up to a fatter couple on the dance floor. You two should get a warehouse.
And when they're fencing, and somebody pokes him in the ass with the sword, he goes, "She got me right in the touche." But have you ever worked?
He just his delivery is so. It's like it's every time you read one of his jokes, you hear it in his voice. It's so just perfect. Ladybugs, even his movies that weren't there. But let me not Meet Wally Sparks for whatever reason. You know what it was? It was the dignified people getting crashed by the crass, tasteless party guest. And I grew up in a family where my mom was very prim and proper, and I thought it was so funny to see a guy just roll in and be so unacceptable. When he goes up to the woman trying to have sex with her, and she goes, "I don't have casual sex." "Oh, I won't be casual. I'll keep my tie on."
Wait, so you edit these?
I wasn't going to, but I didn't like that last part, so I'm probably going to take that part out.
Wait, I can't believe you spend time editing this, but don't even hang up the picture within the frame and you have a loose pillow, and I don't know if you got a body buried over there, or I see you got the Blues Brothers. Like, I've seen hostage videos with better production value than this fucking Patreon.
Is it got the Oscars over there?
This is my dream. This is my dream to perform in on the same, to be interviewed by the same couch that you jerk off in and sleep in and eat in. I'm willing to bet your entire Patreon income this month that you're not even wearing pants right now.
No, I'm wearing pajama bottoms. I was talking to you about it. When I first met you, it was a lot of questions. I was brand new. I even told you I was attracted to you. In the first 3 weeks, just like, shut up, right? Like, you handled it so well. You're like, you're really not supposed to say that. I'm like, oh, thank you. I could have been fired right there. I was brand new. So I was asking you all these questions.
Okay, take that and put it on a shelf and let's get to work.
Exactly, yeah. But I was brand new. But you were great to me. You were so, oh, look, I still have this. You see that? You gave me that.
I remember that.
And you also gave me this.
Yes.
I had to pull that out of my
What the hell was I going to do with it? I can't believe you still have that.
I know. It was a big deal to me. It was my first. I had no idea my career was going to end.
I was the first time I was ever doing Letterman, and it was a huge deal. And you're asking for advice and stuff, and everybody's just telling me it's just like any normal set. It's just like you've done all the hard work.
Yeah.
It's just like any normal set. Just do it and realize it, and don't make a bigger deal out of it. It's just another set. So I'm there, and I'm just telling myself it's just another set. It's just another set. I'm in the green room. Tom Cruise is the lead guest, and he hasn't been on the show in 9 years. And he is tearing the roof off the place. He's being Tom Cruise charming. He's being Tom Cruise electricity. During the break, he's running up and down the aisle, saying hi to people. The place is going crazy. And I'm in the back going, it's just a normal set. It's just a normal set.
This is the funny thing. I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is the funny thing about Hollywood that people don't know. Like they always say, if you think you're unique, go on an audition. And yeah, you're not a fat guy. By Hollywood standards, like when you walk in the fat guy room, they're like, "Oh, he's the after."
Yeah.
People don't realize that, like you go with like me, like I would go in for big guy. And I remember one time I went and Michael Clark Duncan was there. Michael Clark Duncan was 6'9", 300 pounds with 22-inch biceps. I was like, "Hi, I'm here for the big guys, bitch." Bitch, because
I grew up loving. I never had the confidence I could be a star, but actually, do you know the movie Dog Day Afternoon?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I love the guy in the beginning who chickens out. I always like those little character guys. Who's that? I could be that guy. That's a weird guy.
You guys had such a great relationship. I love the story. Hearing the story, every time I play the Laugh Factory, you always tell me a new story. My favorite one was where him and Johnny Carson picked up two girls and went to a hotel. And they were all naked. And
Yeah. Like there's 2 rooms, 2 bedrooms, and there's a suite in the middle, and Rodney's with one broad, and Johnny's with another broad. And Rodney's got a robe on, and Johnny's completely naked at the bar, mixing cocktails, and Rodney's just looking at Johnny Carson naked, and he's going, "Man, you're cute, Johnny. What can I say? You're fucking cute, okay?"
Out of sight, out of mind, right? I wasn't even thinking about it. And then they were like, "Oh, by the way, you're going to go to meet everybody at Warner Brothers for like the studio testing." And I was like, "Wait, for the 2 Broke Girl show? Really?" I was like, "Okay, cool." So then I get there. Everybody else there is an old Russian guy. It looks like a scene from Moscow in the Queen's Gambit.
I feel bad for those guys.
It's crazy. I got to know them very well afterwards, and they were, and they, and it's funny because what the notes came back was, so I was much younger at the time than all those guys, right? I was 30 years old, and it was amazing because they said positively, because obviously, if you haven't seen the show, for listeners or viewers who haven't seen it, I played a guy who was very aggressive sexually and very flirtatious like that. And so the note was, "Oh, we like this guy because he doesn't have like a rapey vibe."
Interesting.
I was like, "I'll take it."
How interesting is that? That's interesting.
And they said because when I hit on the girls, it didn't seem creepy.
He could take 5. You could give Steve Carell 5 sentences, and he could find 8 different ways to perform it in that moment.
Right.
And my job as your scene partner is to shut the fuck up and not laugh. Like, that's just what I decided my role would be. Is don't crack. And then you also try not to make the mistake as an actor of not watching him perform. I'm in the scene with you. I'm supposed to be acting too.
Yeah.
But holy shit, he took that and did this with that word. And I would have, because I love to play the game. This is how I learn. This is how I try to teach myself some acting on set. If I'm working alongside someone that I'm like, "Ooh, I can't wait to see what they do with these pages."
Yeah.
Is watch how can I put it? I'll guess how I think you're going to perform this line.
Okay.
And then I'll watch you.
Yeah.
And I go, I think the joke is here. I think the joke. And Steve Carell will find 3 more jokes.
Yeah.
In the set without adding a word. and he finds moments of physicality. Like I don't want to get into the techie tech shit of acting, but
that's kind of what the show is. But go ahead, whatever.
It was a front row seat, bro. It was a front row seat to just watching him just methodically break down this script, and I was just like, yo, I'm blown away, man.
When the captain of the ship is Amy Poehler, right? Yeah. And she has no ego, and she's all about comedy. Nobody else can come on that ship with an ego and all that bullshit, you know? And she's just so easygoing and lovely as can be. And, you know, it's like, I hoped it would be a recurring, but I did not know. But, you know, because when I was on set, she was always just like, it's Mo, just keep the camera rolling, you know. And I would improv, it's Mo, just keep it rolling. I loved it.
We're in the car with him for that part.
it's such a great scene, man. It's such a great scene. And I remember
Harold let us improvise the hell out of that scene.
Did he really?
He was a Second City man. So that whole whoa, slip sliding around, and I kind of came up with, how about if I have to almost throw up the entire time? Just add a little edge of a little whoopsitude to it, you know?
That's fascinating.
And then Bill threw in the line to me to say, how about some flapjacks? That's his call.
Really?
Yeah. He said, hey, you know the way Second City guys, you get together, hey, we're going to do a scene. How about you come in and you go up, I'll tell you do that. Let's go do it. And it's kind of that quick, you know? And then you play around with it. Maybe it's 2-3 takes. You find the slip slide timing of it all.
Yeah.
But it's like 2-3 takes, man.
That is fascinating, man. That's the whole reason I do this show, is for that.
Last time I talked to him, I was just me and him up in his place in Westwood. And he says, is there anything I could do for you, kid? I said, hey, you already did it. You're my friend. What do you want? What do I expect you to do? You got me in a special. You get me in movies. What are you, crazy? I said, you know what you could do? Close your robe. I got to eat later on. I see those little purple balls of yours, and it makes me gag.
I was on the same episode with the chick from The Office. We're going full circle. Pam from The Office.
Jen,
yeah. So we're backstage, and we're like and I see her, we pass each other in the hallway. I'm like, hey, I'm Dan. I'm going to be the stand-up comic. And then she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And we had a fun little moment, right? I go up on stage, I destroy. It's really great. And then I leave, and 3 months later, I'm at La Poubelle, this restaurant in LA. And she's there with like 5 people, okay? And I'm like, with my girlfriend at the time, and I'm like, oh my God, I actually have a good reason to go up to celebrity right now because I have a good little connection with her. Like, we were on the show together. So I go up and I tap her. I'm like, hey, Jenna, it's Dan a Dude. And she's like, who? I'm like, it's me, Dan a Dude from The Tonight Show. We were on The Tonight Show together. And she goes, okay.
Oh.
Constantly is, if they could dye the river green today, why can't they dye it blue the other 364 days a year?
That was you made that up?
Yeah, because see, people don't understand when we as actors have the writer writes a line. He says, why would he come in here knowing that all the security's here?
Yeah.
That's the line. But when you get to the set and there's 37 more feet that you have to walk, you have a distance, you have the shoe leather that you have to fill.
Yeah.
And you have to fill it within, as you know, within the character that you're creating. So you better know how to improvise in those moments. So I did ask him if he would. He said that he was, it said in the script that they were going to show the river green. So I asked him if that was near here, and he said, yeah, it'll be right before the scene. So I threw in the line.
I want you, and I'm sorry to make you a dancing monkey, which I think you'd be great at.
Thank you.
I think you play a dancing monkey really well. But I really love the Godzilla story. When you worked on Godzilla,
Yeah.
the story made me laugh so hard that I want you to tell it again, and I'm sorry.
It's not going to be as funny because you will see all of it coming, but it's a pretty good story. So I'm cast as Chelsea Chapman.
That's fucking
That's a weird name.
It's like a Marvel comic name.
Elsie Chapman. Elsie Chapman.
Okay.
The scientist in Godzilla. It's a big deal. And it's a big movie. It's a Roland Emmerich movie. And
I remember when they were shooting it. I remember.
Oh, that's right. And so it was me and Matthew Broderick and somebody else. I don't know. So most of my scenes were with Matthew. So we're going down in the van on the first day, and I'm nervous. You know, I'm always kind of like, oh, what's this going to be like? And, you know, and I said, do you want to go over the lines? He goes, no, that's all right. I was like, oh, cool. Yeah, I don't need to either. I'm fine. My first big week, like, no, it's fine. So, and he's lovely, you know. We're just talking. It's not a lot of lines or anything, but I would have been nice to say them out loud. Okay. So we get down there, and I'm like, holy hell. Like, the set is like something from Mission Impossible, but add helicopters, rain, Godzilla, right? An army brigade that has to move. So all on the cue so the cues go like rain, you know, thunder, army battalion,
Bazooka.
Helicopter, Godzilla, go Vicki, right? And so my line was, he's out there somewhere. New York is an island like no other, surrounded on all sides by water. And I hear Matthew crack up in the shot. Cut! What is happening? You know, Roland Emmerich. I can't do his voice.
After all that.
Stop the laughter, and I'm thinking, oh my God, the choppers are going back. The rain is stopping. What the fuck are you laughing about? And he comes up to me and goes, do you notice anything funny about that line? I go, I don't know. I go, and Roland is now here. It's a threesome. I'm like, why are you saying this to me in front of the fucking producer? And I go, New York is an island like no other. And he goes, uh-huh. And I go, surrounded on all sides by water. He goes, uh-huh. Oh, no. All islands are surrounded by water. He goes, yes, they are. And so then he proceeds to try to tell Roland. And he goes, is island, water, rolling, you know.
Well, it's before we get into movies and stuff, I have these memories I wrote down of you that really make me laugh.
Oh.
I think the first, as you know, the first moment that I think you became an icon in New York was the Rich Voss roast at the Boston Comedy Club, or was it the Barry Katz roast? And Jay Moore was recently in movies, and he went on stage, and he was like, what's up with Jim Norton and the blinking? What do you have, Tourette's? And then you said, this I think made you a celebrity in New York. You said, if I didn't blink so much, I wouldn't have missed your part in Jerry Maguire.
Oh.
And the crowd went fucking insane. And that, I think, is the moment that everyone was like, I was like, holy shit, this is the guy. Like, that was the moment you became famous to me. You know?
Thank you. Yeah, I vaguely remember that. I remember saying that, but I didn't remember it was to Jay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was great. That's so crazy.
I literally didn't know anything. Do you want to know how green I was, Brian?
Yeah.
We did a take and my phone went off.
Coen Brothers.
I'm shooting a fucking Coen Brothers movie with the Coen Brothers and Oscar Isaac and all these amazing veterans, and I forgot to turn my fucking phone off.
My favorite story, one of my favorite stories about how you encouraged my bad behavior was when that one juggling comic at the Laugh Factory in LA, like, he went on stage and did 20 minutes. He's only supposed to do 20. He did 20.
I know who the fuck you're talking about.
He did another 50 minutes of juggling. And the crowd was just left. The crowd left. And, you know, and then I had to go on stage. And the entire audience is gone. So when they look at me, I took a tissue, wait, threw a tissue in the air. And I could just hear silence, but you cackling in the background. And it just made me feel so much better about my situation. You know what I mean? I love having you around. You always seem to be around better but worse. When I threw the drink on the woman's sweater, you were there for that. This woman was started calling me fat, and I just threw a drink on her, you know. And I couldn't even believe I did that. I was like 5 drinks in, I had enough. The fact they were there for that was hilarious. The one person who had wanted to be there for that was you. Anyway, so was
that shit was so funny when you did the little napkin shit. I was like, God damn, that's funny, man. Woo! Woo!
It was last
sometimes when you're sometimes it was fucked up, right? Is you're already funny, but when you get mad, you get funnier, which is fucking crazy. I go, the angrier you get, the funnier you get. I go, God damn it, I'm not trying to laugh, but it's so funny.
I've had a lot of people feel that way, man. I've had a lot of awkward
Dude, it's fucking hysterical.
That's how I feel.
I have good. You want to hear a Harvey Keitel's story?
Please.
Harvey Keitel is.
That's what this is all about.
And he's standing next to me one day, and like that same day, and I look at him, and it's everyone's together. It's a tight room. I go, you're not so fucking tough, dude. Like that. And he stops and he looks at me and he goes, what? You're not so fucking tough. And I go, you're just a big Harvey bear. And he goes, what? You just, and I lean up and I start grabbing his cheeks and I go, you're just a big Harvey bear.
Oh my God.
I go talking to your kid on the fucking thing. You're just a big Harvey bear. And he looks at me and he's like this and I'm like, holy shit, he may hit me. And he goes, all right, but only here in Italy.
But dude, it was the Entourage golf tournament and they gave me the Johnny Rockets Platinum card was a gift, which meant that we could go to Johnny Rockets and eat as much as we wanted. I could bring as many people as I wanted, and we could eat as much as we wanted of anything on the menu for no dollars at all.
And we did.
For as long as we wanted to, for a year.
And they'd never seen the card before. They were like, what the? They had to bring in the manager. They had to call the real
Everybody
manager.
Freaked out. Oh my God, it's a platinum member.
What do we do? We're like, bring us everything. And we had it.
We sat there and ate for an hour and a half.
And we paid.
And then we went to the Winchester Mystery House.
Yeah.
And farted in every room of the Winchester Mystery House.
It was so funny because as we were both farting in the Winchester Mystery House, the girls on the tour were like, "That's the guy from Cash Bear. That's the guy." And meanwhile, you're just like standing there farting for like hours.
So we're doing it, and then all of a sudden, we cut, and she goes, and this is in front of an audience, a live audience. She goes, "Wow, guess he's getting all the jokes. Guess he's Mr. Funny Guy." Or something. Just like, holy whoa! And then, but the funny thing is that when she did that, there's two ways you can go. Like as the other actor, you can either go, "Oh God, oh I'm sorry," or whatever. But I'm from Jersey. It's like I was like, okay, calm down. You get it. The whole show's about you, right? And that's when we kind of like bonded a little bit, I guess.
So anyway, one day we're reading this packet and there's a sketch for Jim Carrey as the lead. And Jim didn't want to do it. He, I guess, had read it in advance, wasn't interested, didn't want to do the sketch. And Keenan made him read the sketch. So what Jim did was he stood up, he turned around with his back facing Keenan, he bent over, and he did the thing where he would grab the cheeks of his ass and pull his ass apart as if he was talking out of his ass. And Keenan fired him. On the spot. Yeah, he just told him, "You're fired, get out."
There's comics and there's actors who deliver a joke in the rhythm of a joke, but if it doesn't have the truth to it and the honesty, I always, anytime someone would come to the show, we'd have a guest star who hadn't done sitcoms or any of that. It's a different beast. I'd always tell them, you just play it like it's drama. You have to believe that this situation, as ridiculous it is real, and that the feelings, the emotions, everything that your character has is there.
Anyway, I admire your talent so much. What you did with Bender, and I know that you go to bars and like, that guy's Bender, and you got to do the voice. It's like, I'm going to ask you to do the voice, but what I'm saying is, what an original fucking character. You know what I mean? I don't think anybody would have came up with that voice for that guy.
the voice I had been toying with for a while, and it was a variation. It's three things,
right?
Combined together. It's the drunk at the end of every bar in the Northeast. I'm gonna kick you. I'll kick your ass. You can fucking suck on my ding dong motherfucking. You know, that guy. And then Slim Pickens. From Blazing Saddles, which is top 5 all-time favorite.
Yeah, and the goddamn, I can't think of it.
Yeah. I mean, so, you know, what in the hell in the wide world of sports is going on? I told you boys to come out here and lay some rail, not jump around like a bunch of Kansas City faggots. You know, I mean, you can't say that word anymore. He said it, but the way he said it, faggots. I mean, just there's a bend in it, and oh god, I mean, this is a movie, of course, that had, you know, cowboys fighting a bunch of dancers, you know, from a Broadway musical, like, you know,
they come out of a love tunnel and go, wow.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I'm parked over there. Yeah, exactly.
What's the third?
Yeah. So the third one is my buddy Ralph Colombino from Rutgers, who he's a guy I went to college with. He now runs a really successful acting school for kids, young people in New Jersey, and it's actually like a lot of alumni are like working. Like it's fucking great, and he's a great guy. But anyway, big shout out to my man. But he used to do a guy named Charlie the Sausage Lover. I used to make him do it, and I do it back to him. Sausage, you have fun, you have all kinds of sausages, Italian sausage, you have Italian hot sausage, Italian sweet sausage. You can have a super salad. You can have a nice super salad, very good. German sausage, a lot of worst German sausage. So he would just go on these lists and these tangents, and we will go back and forth, and it was the funniest fucking thing. If you add those three together, then you get better.
Yeah. Amazing.
But the point is, I don't mind playing these other guys, even if they have an accent. You know, some people go, "Oh, you know, it's a little stereotypical." I go, "Listen, these guys exist, and especially if there's a way to make the character likable." So even though, like in Superior Donuts, my character was supposed to be Judd Hirsch's kind of nemesis in a way, but he was still friends and this and that. I was like, you know, I would get texts on Twitter and stuff, people going, "Oh my God, I love that character." So in my opinion, I'm going, if I can have a character that gets people around America to laugh and happens to be of Middle Eastern descent, then that's a win, because that's like a subliminal way of them going, "Oh, look, there's a guy who makes me laugh who's of that background." So
I love the spring and summer when they do the outdoor shows.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah, those
I did one last year where there was like 250 people. The stage was in front of woods. Yeah. I swear to God, I was scared that a bear was going to attack me or a bat. I'm on stage and the whole audience went like that, and it was a fucking flying squirrel. And I jumped off.
What?
And she said, "Well, just go say hello. Just, you know, don't just be cool about it. Just, you know, tell him where he knows you from and, you know, remind him and just say you had a good time or whatever." I said, "Yeah, I just want to tell him he was great." And every time I can talk about him, I always do. And I say good things. And so I went up to him and I said, "Hi," I said, "Stephen, I'm sorry to interrupt you." And he said, "David, right?"
That's great.
And I said, "Yeah." I said, I just wanted to say hello. I'm sorry to bother you. He said, "You're not bothering me." And he put out his hand and shook my hand and said, "How you doing? It's good to see you here. How did you come to be here?" I said, "Well, we're on the Artist Council." He said, "Thanks for everything you're doing." This is the guy who fucking paid for the whole thing, right? And I was like, "Thanks for everything you're doing." And he turned to Kate Capshaw and he says, "David was on War of the Worlds, and you were like the husband, the ex-husband, the boyfriend." I said, "Right, yeah, the rich ex-husband." He goes, "Yeah, we had fun. You were very good." And I was like, "I'm so amazed that you remember me right now."
I always memorize.
Yeah.
So I come in there. I have the pages, of course, but I memorize so that I can really play.
Yeah.
And then they go, "Oh, Jordan, no. We're supposed to skip this part, whatever part I was still doing." I was like, "Oh, really?" And they go, "Yeah." And they said they saw my script and saw that something wasn't X'd out on my script. And they're like, "Oh no, do you want a minute to like go?" And I was like, "Well, no, because I already memorized, so I'll just skip that part." But I kept screwing up. And I probably screwed up 4 or 5 times where I would literally go, "I'm sorry, can I start over? I'm sorry, can I start over?" Because one thing I have learned, Brian, is I will say, "Can I start over?"
Yeah.
I'm sorry. And then I did that about 4 or 5 times. Like, "I'm so sorry." And all I'm thinking is like, you should have just stepped out, worked on this again.
Yeah.
And so I walked out. I saw a friend of mine there, and I just had the worst audition ever. And I got the job.
Wow.
It was the Mindy Project when I did the Mindy, and they had me come back and do another episode. So it's that thing where I was like, that's a good lesson for me to go, stop judging yourself so harsh. Like, they're not seeing you're in your head because you're judging you, but they're just looking to see if they think you're right for the part.
So they weren't. So you were just the 3 of you were alone in the woods. They were watching you from a distance, and you had the shot list. You had to shoot the scenes.
Yeah, every day we'd have a little 35 millimeter film canister, and in there it had notes, and then it would tell us, what our actors' objectives were. We couldn't share the notes with each other, and they would create scenes out of thin air. And then every night they watched the footage. We would drop the footage off in a milk crate. They would watch it overnight while we slept, and basically based on where our character would write the new scenes, at least the new scenarios, and we would the next day wake up and have new notes that we would go with. It was pretty cool.
So you would find the notes, nobody was talking to you, and then sometimes they played tricks on you. You didn't know that they were going to disturb you at night. They just did, and you knew to just record it.
Exactly, dude. Exactly.
That's crazy. It's like an Ed Wood shoot.
They don't get. So now, back in the day on Sesame Street, and actually almost all the kids shows I did in the 90s, most of the time there were not children on the set. So we would just make the puppets do horrible things between takes.
Yeah.
And they would always roll on it in the booth, and then there'd be a rap party, and they would show all the puppets. Like I have, and then they would give us a copy. I have a copy of a VHS of like Elmo doing terrible things. And we all, they're infamous, and we all pass them around, and we all know we're never going to show, we're never going to upload them online, and we like to keep our jobs. But it's like one of those things we all kind of pass around. Disney would not. They're like, oh no one gets to have a copy of this. They wouldn't let us. They wouldn't let us make a blooper reel. They wouldn't let us have it.
Acting, the magic of acting, whatever. The two heavies in that scene who play his cousins.
Yeah, that's right.
They hard-eyed me the whole scene.
Yeah.
They're ready to kill me through the entire scine. But then like in between takes, we were like, we're hanging out. They're like, "See, you do comedy, man? Where do you do stand-up?" It's so funny, the flip side of it.
And I've done the move that William Hurt does when she's standing on the balcony and she's looking down at the crowd, and she says, "If he looks up here, it's meant to be." Because she's watching him walk through the crowd. She's watching him, and she says, he turns, he smiles, he makes it look so easy. If he looks up here at me, and he looks up and he sees her, and he does like a Cupid arrow heart, Cupid arrow to the heart kind of move. I've copied that move. I've stolen that move. That's a move.
That's fantastic. That makes me think of all the times that I looked back at a woman and she wasn't looking at all. Oh, the door was closed. I'm like, she couldn't even watch me walk to my car, the fucking bitch. That one girl, I fucking hate her. Anyway, and so I love Albert Brooks. I saw him once. I just moved here, and my mother's like, "You got to buy a suit. You're gonna need a suit," because I was on a sitcom. She's like, "You're gonna need a suit." I'm like, "Okay." So I went to the mall. I was in the Valley. I went to the Woodland Mall, and I heard Albert Brooks going, "So these shoes are these the type of shoes that I'm like over?" And there's Albert Brooks buying shoes in the mall, and I was like, "It's fucking Albert Brooks," but he was talking like Albert Brooks would buying shoes. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was another personality. He was Albert Brooks in a movie buying shoes. That's what it seemed like. And I was like, fucking Albert Brooks buying shoes. He was asking the guy serious questions about the shoes. It was just so interesting to me. I fucking love Albert Brooks.
That's so weird because like a very similar thing happened to us with Albert Brooks. Me and my wife went to the store. I'm dead serious. It's so funny you said that. We were in like a store. I was trying on jeans. My wife was standing outside the dressing room, waiting to see me come out so that she could tell me if the jeans looked good on me or not. and Albert Brooks was in the store, and he was also back there changing, and he came out of his dressing room. He didn't have anybody with him, so he just looked at my wife and he said, "Do these look okay on me?" Sure.
But the subject matter you're writing, I imagine it's so depressing sometimes to write it, that how do you switch off? Or how do you say, for the next 2 hours, I'm gonna be dark, and then come out of that and see my kids?
I will say that since I've been writing A Million Little Things, I've never been happier.
I believe you.
Well, because I think it's a cathartic process. I remember I was writing the pilot to A Million Little Things, and at that point, I really like to write at the mall. So I write at the food court.
Really?
At the mall. It's the closest thing. Yeah, because I want the energy of New York, but I'm not in New York. So the closest thing is like a bunch of people, and it's a food court. And you can sort of go like, what would something weird someone would do? Oh yeah, that, So I'm writing the pilot, and I remember my wife said to me, I got the kids tonight. I want to finish it tonight. Like, stay as long as you want to finish.
Wow.
So I'm writing the scene, and I was writing the scene with Rome at the hockey game where he confesses to the guys, sometimes I feel so sad. It's like I can't breathe, only I am breathing. And I feel like if it would just stop, maybe it wouldn't hurt so much. Yeah. And I'm writing that scene, and I really, when I write, I believe I'm the characters. Like, I really will sit there. And so I'm at the food court, and I am bawling. I am crying so hard. And all of these, there's a high school right near me, Notre Dame, and I think all of these like high school girls are looking at me like, oh, that poor old man, someone broke up with him, like,
I think the cool answer is Dave Chappelle when I was 16, and I saw for Killing Him Softly.
That's a great special. That's the way he does the Sesame Street stuff, right?
Yeah, it's front to back the greatest hour of stand-up comedy ever done. I can argue it. I can go against Pryor live in concert in '79. I can go against Carlin back in town.
Yeah,
Chappelle's Killing Him Softly is front to back the best, just bit. It's got Pepe Le Pew. You know, when everyone brought up Pepe Le Pew recently, I kept thinking of Chappelle's bit where he's like, "Now I put Pepe Le Pew on for my nephew, and I said, watch this guy because he's funny." And after about 5 minutes, I was like, "Jesus, Pepe, take it easy. What kind of fucking rapist is this guy?" And he's like, "See, Uncle Dave, sometimes you just need to take the pussy." And I'm like, no. And I switch. So people forget, like, the joke to get into Sesame Street is relevant now.
Did you have the same experience that Chris had when he was in school, that he was getting picked on a lot for being like, he went to a mostly white school? Did you go to the same school and have that experience?
Okay, this is where the Brian Scolaro podcast gets great.
Okay.
My brother Chris, my brother Andre, myself, and my brother Brian, we're all a couple of years. No, Chris was older, so Chris was with me in public school for maybe 1 or 2 years. But my brother Andre, my brother Brian, and myself, we were in the same public school around the same time because we were all a few years apart. From kindergarten to 6th grade, Monday through Friday, I had a fist fight with a kid that tried to beat me up because every day from Monday to Friday at the public school we went to, at 3 o'clock, an alarm would go off, and it was for the kids that lived outside of the district. So at 3 o'clock, the alarm would go off, come in the hallway and say, outer district, outer district. That was all the kids that would bust in, had to line up and wait outside for the school bus. The kids that lived in the neighborhood, they would be exited through another door. They would run around the school to the side where we were and try to beat us up every day at 3 o'clock. And their friends from the neighborhood who didn't go to school, who were delinquents, would meet them there. So the 100 or so kids that would get out of school would meet up with another 100 or so kids. They would run around to the other side of the school and try to fight us. And my father told us a long time ago, if anybody calls you a nigger, you fight them. And my father told us, if your brother's in a fight, you're in a fight too. So sometimes it wasn't about me, it was trying to protect my brother or my brother, me. Every day, Monday through Friday, from kindergarten to 6th grade, I had a fist fight with a kid trying to beat me up.
Different kid or same kid?
No, different kids.
every
Jesus
day.
Christ,
Get the
man.
niggers, chase the niggers,
Jesus
throwing
Christ.
stuff at us.
Well, this is what I really mind about.
Niggers, we're gonna kill the niggers. Don't come to school tomorrow, nigga. You're dead tomorrow, nigga. Every day, Brian. Every day.
It's crazy to me. It's crazy. I'm really sorry that happened. The reason I asked you is because I remember Chris saying that in an interview. And what really gets me is how nice you are to white people. Like, I don't know if I went through that. Like, hot girls have been really mean to me. So when I see a hot girl, I get pissed. You have every reason to be rude to white people, and you haven't. You know what I mean? Like, you've been nothing but nice to me since the day I met you. Nothing but nice. After all that, as a white guy, I'm sorry. Sorry that happened. The only good thing is, all those kids remember your name, and they saw what happened to you and Chris. That's the only good thing. So they saw how you succeeded, and they saw how you're good people, and now they have to deal with that. They have to tell that story and get looked at like assholes, or be afraid of telling that story when your name comes up. You know what I mean? So that's the only revenge. And I wish that every fucking person who went through that had that kind of revenge.
The interesting lesson I learned from all of that was just how, and this might explain some of my personality to you. The interesting lesson I learned about that was how most people are followers.
Yes.
Because a lot of those kids I would sit in the class with all day, and they would talk to me, and we would talk about movies, and we would talk about Star Wars, and I would bring my action figures to school, and they would bring theirs, and we would play at recess. But then at 3 o'clock when they got out of school and their friend said, "Hey man, let's go get the nigger," the same kid I was sitting next to in class was like, "Oh, nigger," and it made me realize, like, you don't really feel that way. You just joining. You just don't want to be left out of the mob. You feel like if you're outside of the mob, you're not included. So it made me realize how people are followers, and that's why I've never been a follower. That's why I've never followed even the guys in my neighborhood that were doing wrong and doing drugs or selling drugs or robbing people. I was like, nah, I'm cool. I don't need to do this to be accepted by you guys. I'm fine. If you don't accept me, that's fine.
How interesting, man. That's great.
So I get the Cosby Show, and at the time, the manager I had was on medication and went off his medication. I
already know who it is. Just from that, I know who it is.
I won't say any names.
Went off his medication.
He told me, be there at I think the first day it was shooting in Queens. He said, be there at, I don't know, 10 o'clock or something. And I'm like, it's a lot of this is my fault. I'm like, go to this Law and Order. I had to wait around all day. That's how this shit works. I get there a few minutes late or whatever. It's not going to be a big deal. So I get there, security guard's there, and I said, DC Benny signing in, and the guy's like, oh, you late? Hold on a second, right? And he's like, DC Benny signing it, and this lady comes in and she's like, CD? And I said, huh? And she goes, CD. And I said, DC. And she's like, DJ, come on, let's go. You're late, right? She keeps calling me the wrong name, right? So she's like dyslexic or something. So she goes, Dr. Cosby is very upset, right? And I'm like, Dr. Cosby? She goes, Dr. Cosby's you were supposed to be here like an hour ago or something. So I had gotten the wrong time from the manager, went off his meds, and I was a little late on my own. So I get there, and it was a rehearsal, and it was a dress rehearsal. Everybody's on the set. And Cosby is like, pudding pop in the pudding. And he's like, he's smoking a cigar, and there's a big sign that says no smoking. She's like, Dr. Cosby, TJ's here or whatever. DJ Barney. And I'm like, DC Benny's like, CD Barney, whatever. And he's like, late boy. And he just starts laying into me and yelling at me in front of all these people, right? And it's humiliating. He's like, he goes, you're supposed to represent your people, because I guess he thought I was Latino. You're supposed to represent your people, and you're late. And he goes, what kind of an actor is that? Is late on the set and the pudding pop and the pudding? I can't do his impression. But
you don't have to.
It's humiliating me. And I'm like, oh my God. So it was horrible. So we do the dress rehearsal, and the line is, I say to Robert Klein, okay, I got the car outside, let's go. And we go. So the next day, you know, I go home, I tell my wife, I'm like, God, it's so embarrassing. Cosby yelled at me and everything. I look so unprofessional. I got it, you know, I don't know, this manager told me the wrong time or whatever. I'm going to show up early tomorrow. I'm going to have my shit together. And I got the one line, you know? So I show up the next day. I got my shit together. And I'm waiting to go on set. I get there, and there's a little speaker in the dressing room.
Yeah.
It's like, and it keeps going, Dr. C, please get to the set. So I'm like, Dr. C, because they call him the doctor. I had asked, and they're like, he likes to be called Dr. Cosby. So I'm like, Dr. C, that's all. So then they get on there again. They're like, Dr. C, get to the set. And they get kind of an attitude on the speaker. I'm like, man, somebody's going to get chewed out calling him Dr. C, you know, like that on the speaker or whatever. So the door to the dressing room opens, and it's that woman with the clipboard again. And she's like, Dr. C, you're late. I'm like, Dr. C? I thought you were talking about Cosby. She's like, no, Dr. C. Benny or something. And I'm like, no, DC Benny. And she's like, you know, she's the one that's calling me DJ Benny or DF Sweeney, whatever. So DF Sweeney. So I'm like, oh my God. So I got to go to the set. You know, now it's like I'm late again. He yells at me again. He's like, oh, the second day you're late on the button pop and the button. I'm like, ah. So, and we're going to film the thing. But I got this little script. So we do the line. Robert Klein says something, and I said, hey, I'm going to go get the car, right? And Cosby's like, cut. And he goes, did you read the line? Did you read the script? And I'm like, yeah, I read the script yesterday. He goes, yesterday, today's a brand new script. So there was a new line added that I had missed. It was like, I'm going to get the car. I'll meet you around front. So I'm like, so he's like, do you think you could memorize that so we could just shoot this thing? I'm like, yeah, okay. Okay, so I memorize it. We shoot the thing. It's I mean, embarrassed again, right? So now we're finished, and I'm like, well, I got to go to I have to go to the bathroom, and I have to, the manager's going to fax me another script for something else. Yeah. So I asked the lady with the clipboard, where can I go to get this fax? She goes, go to this office back there, and then you better leave and, you know, just show up tomorrow on time. Great. I go to this office to get this fax. It's Kaufman Astoria, so they have it's like a honeycomb of little offices. Yeah, yeah. So I get the fax with the script, and I said, where's the bathroom? The lady's like, you could use that bathroom over there. And she goes, but the door sticks, so you got to push it really hard, right? So I push the door really hard. There's a dude in there taking a shit, right? He's like, get the fuck out of here. He's yelling at me or whatever. I'm like, oh my God. I just held my piss and I went home. I took the train home. I'm like, what a horrible day. The next day, I get to my dressing room. There's a memo that actors are not allowed to use the bathroom in that wing of the building, right? So all because of me, right? All because of me. So, oh my God. So it just keeps getting worse, though. So then, okay, the last day we've shot the thing, we rehearsed one day, we shot one day, and now Cosby buses in a church group to do, and we do it like a live play. Okay, so the church group is getting bussed in. We do it. So I'm kind of wandering around, and there was a warm-up guy that's like talking. You know, he's a comic that Cosby's flown in from Atlanta to do like warm-up, right? And this guy's a fucking hack, right? This guy's just a hack, and I'm just sitting there. I'm minding my own business, and this guy starts making fun of me in front of the people, this church group, right? Yeah. And you know, while the stuff is getting set up, so. I'm like, I know this guy's not making fun of me, this fucking hack. So I start making fun of him. You know, I started like, I'm like, dude, you're horrible. Like, you call that material what you're doing? And I start talking about it, you know, just, you know, snapping on him, making fun of his head. And, you know, you got a big head, it takes you like an hour to change your mind, blah, blah, blah. And people are laughing for the first time. Like, people are actually laughing. The lady with the clipboard comes out. She's like, CD, Barney. She's like, you're not supposed to talk to blah, 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 blah. And some woman stands up. She's like, that motherfucker was funny. That other motherfucker not funny. You need to fly him back to Atlanta. So now we're you know, I have made these people laugh that are in this group, so I feel good. I'm like, okay, but I've never really done a play, so I'm not really familiar with like stage directions and shit like that. But I've got one line. Like, how do you fuck that up? Yeah. So I'm waiting, and the lady with the clipboard. It's like, okay, go out there, do your line. So go out, I do the line, and then I come back in. And I guess come back in, and then they do a curtain call. That was the thing. I'd never done a curtain call.
Yeah.
So I go out, and I thought you just go out and you bow and you go back in or whatever. But I don't know what happened. Somehow Robert Klein was coming through the curtains as I was going through the curtains, and I headbutted Robert Klein.
Yeah, you're not supposed to go back. You're supposed to go to the left.
Yeah, and I headbutted him, and he's like, ah! And we had to go out there and hold hands and bow, and he wouldn't hold my hand. And this guy was like an idol of mine, like a comic idol. I'm like, I fucking headbutted this guy. You know? I mean, it was so horrible. So now I just want to get out of there. I want to get out of there. So then this girl comes up to me from the audience because I'm done. And she's like, hey, I saw you. And I knew her. We used to do comedy together at this place called the Uptown Comedy Club in Harlem.
Yeah.
She's like, hey, I saw you in the play and everything. She's like, how crazy is that? And I'm like, it's so long. I haven't seen you in so long. And I go, what have you been doing? Like, I haven't seen you doing comedy. She's like, there was a situation with this stalker, or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's terrible. And it was just kind of weird. And then so she goes, do you know Dr. Cosby? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, well, yeah, but it didn't really go well. She's like, listen, don't worry about it. He's a friend of mine. I'll introduce you, and it will just make stuff better. And I'm like, are you sure? She's like, believe me, he's a friend of mine. It's Dr. Cosby. We go way back or whatever. So she's like, come on, I'll bring to the office. It'll smooth everything out. So we go to the office, right? She walks in the office. He's there. He's like, couldn't pop in the butt. He looks at her and he goes, what did I tell you? You are not supposed to set foot in this building. You are not supposed to. I have a restraining order. What are you doing? So I'm like, oh shit, the stalker. She was the stalker. She was stalking somebody. That's why I haven't, and now she's probably stalking Cosby. And she's like, oh no, Dr. Cosby, this is my friend DC Benny. Have you met him? I met him, yeah. I met him, put him by. He's like, the both of you need to leave. And I'd never heard him curse before. And he's like, bitch, you need to get out of this building, right? So I was like, damn.
Wow, he cursed.
Oh, it was horrible, dude. So it's horrible. So now I get home, and I've told my wife about this whole Cosby thing or whatever, and the show, I think it aired, yeah, or did it? Yeah, I think it aired, right? And I told my wife, and she told her mother. Her mother was a fan of the Cosby Show or whatever, or it was supposed to air something like. I'm sorry, these details.
Get to the box.
My friend comes up to New York. He's like, I'm in New York. He goes, I rented a limo. A couple of buddies of mine. He's like, I got bottles of champagne. We're just going to drive around, hit a couple parties. Why don't you come on through and hang out in the limo? So I'm like, all right. It's like a couple weeks later. So we're fucking in this limo. We're driving around. He's like, I hear there's this great party on the Upper West Side. We're going to go to this party. And he goes, I think it's late at night. It's like, now it's like 2 a.m. He's like, but this shit's going to rage on. We'll drop in, whatever. This girl I know is throwing it. So we go to this huge house on either the Upper West Side or Upper East Side. I can't remember exactly where. We get to this huge house. We're shit-faced, right? We go up to the door. He rings the doorbell. He's knocking on the door. This girl answers the door in her pajamas. And she's like, what are you doing? You guys, this party, it was over like 2 hours ago, right? And I'm like, God damn, this girl looks a lot like Cosby, right? And she goes, you guys, the party's over, whatever. And I hear from the top of the stairs, who the hell is ringing the doorbell at 2 o'clock in the fucking morning, right? And she's like, Dad, it's just some guys or whatever. So Cosby comes downstairs. He's in his bathrobe. He's in his pajamas, right? And he's like, who are these people? And he looks at me, he's like, do I know you? I'm like, no, you don't know me. Right? Never seen each other before. So we leave. I'm like, oh my God, do you understand? I think that, yeah, then the show airs. Then my mother-in-law, this is the last part of it, my mother-in-law calls me. And I love my mother-in-law. And she's in Washington, D.C. And she goes, my friend owns Ben's Chili in Washington, D.C. And she goes, Cosby, we saw you on Cosby. You were great and everything. She doesn't know any of this shit is happening.
Yeah.
He goes, and Cosby orders chili to be flown out from Ben's Chili to his house. or whatever. And she goes, I arranged to have your headshot put it in the next batch of chili that he's getting, so he'll remember you to put you in more stuff. Right?
This guy's everywhere. Oh my God, that's my. That's fucking
that headshot after all that shit.
Your headshot. What the fuck? Yeah.